In today's lesson, we will be talking about the construction verb plus the particle 着. In the previous lesson, the construction 正在 plus a verb is used to describe an ongoing dynamic activity, similar to the ing form in English. For example, 我正在吃饭 corresponds to I am eating. However, it is crucial to emphasize that 正在 does not entirely correspond to the English ing. Chinese has another very important structure, verb plus 着. Just to recap the previous lesson, the construction 正在 plus a verb emphasizes an action in progress at a specific moment. It often corresponds to the English present continuous tense. It suggests that the action is happening right now or around a given time. Moving on to the new construction, verb plus 着. At its core, verb plus 着 indicates a continuous state that results from an action. It's less about the action happening right now and more about the persistent situation that the action has created. To understand this better, here are some initial examples. You could say 门开着, the door is opened. The opening action is finished, but the state of being opened is sustained. You could also say 他穿着一件新衣服. He is wearing a new shirt. The action of putting on the shirt is over, but the state of wearing it continues. Now, let's take a look at the different ways that you can use verb plus 着. The basic sentence structure is subject plus verb plus 着, and sometimes you can add the object. For example, you could say 她坐着, she is seated, or she is sitting. As another example, you could say 墙上挂着一幅画, a painting is hanging on the wall. Another form you can use this construction with is the negative form. To form the negative form, use 没 or 没有 and drop the particle 着. As an example, you could say 门没关, the door isn't closed. Note that you cannot say 门没关着. As another example, you could say 他没戴眼镜, he isn't wearing glasses. Another form that you can use with this construction is the question form. To form it, you can use the standard question forms used in Mandarin. As an example, you could say 他戴着帽子吗? Is he wearing a hat? You could also say 窗户是不是开着? Is the window open? We will now introduce the 4 contexts for when it is correct to use this construction. The first context is when you are describing a sustained physical state or posture. The second context is when you describe a scene as a background setting. The third context is when you indicate an action done in a certain manner. In other words, the adverbial use. And the last context is when you indicate a paused action. This is when you use the particle 着 after 在. This first situation is the most straightforward use. It describes how someone or something is positioned or what state it is in. For example, you could say 她躺着, she is lying down. You could also say 她拿着一个包, he's holding a bag. And lastly, you could say 地图在墙上挂着, the map is hanging on the wall. In the second situation when you should be using the construction is when you are setting a scene. You often use a series of verb plus 着 sentences to paint a picture for your listener. To do this, you could say 房间里亮着灯, 放着音乐, 大家都笑着. In the room, the lights were on, music was playing, and everyone was smiling. In the third situation you should be using the construction, this is a very common and useful pattern. One verb with 着 is used to describe how another action is performed. The structure for this is usually the first verb plus 着plus the second verb. where verb 1 is describing the manner of verb 2. Some examples of this are 他笑着对我说 He said to me while smiling, or he said to me with a smile. You could also say 我喜欢听着音乐做作业 I like to do my homework while listening to music. The fourth situation is a special case where the particle 着 is used with 在 or 正在 to emphasize that the action is paused in a continuous state. It often translates as to keep doing or to have been doing. The structure for this is 正在 plus a verb plus 着. Some examples of this are 我正在等着你呢 I'm waiting for you, or I've been waiting for you. You could also say 他一直在学着中文 He has been continuously studying Chinese. Let's now look at a summary of the key differences comparing between 正在 plus verb and verb plus 着. For 正在 plus verb, the focus is on dynamic action. The meaning conveyed when using this construction is that the action is in progress at this moment. The English construction that is analogous to this is verbing or is verbed. And an example of this construction is 他正在跑, which means he is running, and the action of running is happening now. In comparison, the construction verb plus 着 focuses on a static state. When you use the construction, the meaning conveyed is that the action is finished and the resulting state continues. The English construction that is analogous to this is when you say something is in some kind of state. An example of this would be 门开着, the door is opened, with the state of being open persisting. Here's a last final classic contrast that you can use to distinguish between the two constructions. 他正在穿新衣服 He is putting on his new clothes. The action is in progress. Whereas when you say 他穿着新衣服 He is wearing new clothes. It is a current state. As a final overall summary, you should use the construction verb plus 着 when you want to either describe a continuous state like sitting, standing, or holding, when you want to set a background scene, when you want to describe how an action is done, smilingly while holding something, for example, or when you want to indicate an action that has been ongoing and paused. And as a final note, make sure to avoid using it for active, dynamic actions that you can watch happening. That is when you should be using 正在. Make sure to like and subscribe to watch more videos like this with us at Toronto Chinese Academy.